Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot-Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And in this podcast, Blake and I are going to give you all of the best streamers and ad options for next week so you can start planning early. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, the human here to illumine. It's Blake Creamer. Blake, how are you feeling tonight?
Well, I don't understand what you just said, so that's fine. I'll figure it out later. I'll Google it. But buddy, I'm all discombobulated. I don't know what the hell is going on. It's Friday night. We've got all these trades going on. Like the world is spinning. I don't know what way is up. I don't know where the hell I am.
Does that happen to you often, or just when you have more than one beer?
No, it's also hard drugs, right? Let's agree on that. I mean, don't do drugs, kids. Any kids listening to this, learn from my fail, okay? It's pixie sticks. Nate, you got a pixie stick problem, buddy, and I'm with you on that. I think you got me on that, and now we're enabling each other. But anyways, yeah, I'm doing good, man. It's nights like this are. I mean, the Canucks obviously made a bunch of trades. We'll talk about it in a second here, but it's fun. I love trades. It's really exciting. But when it's your team, it's kind of, it has a little bit more weight, and I'm just trying to process what the hell is going on here, especially for fantasy. Like I'm excited to get into this conversation with you and see what's what.
Yeah, man. Well, we can have a little therapy session here. We can help you process your emotions live on the podcast here for sure. Yeah, I think we should go ahead and not delay it, Blake. I think we should get into the Newsies.
Newsies, elite banter by Nate Groot-Niblink right there, folks. That's you come for the metrics, you stay for the banter. Oh my God, that was incredible, Nate. Thank you for that. All right, let's get into the news here. Obviously, the big news of the day: JT Miller traded from the Vancouver Canucks along with Eric Brandstrom and some other guy to the New York Rangers for Philip Hedl. Hedl. He's the new Thomas Hertl. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, we got Philip Hedl and some spare parts, right? And then. That wasn't enough. The Canucks decided they would trade for Marcus Pettersson, right? They two Petterssons weren't enough for the Vancouver Canucks. They needed number 3. All right. We got 3 Petterssons over here. We're collecting Petterssons, and that's fine. But yeah, they traded for Marcus Pettersson, Drew O'Connor from the Pittsburgh Penguins for Desharnais, Danton Heinen, and a couple prospects. So I'm just trying to sift through this stuff here and see who is really going to benefit from these trades. And I mean, right off the bat, I think, and I'm excited to get your take on this, but I think Miller goes to power play 1 there in the New York Rangers. Like, I mean, what's your initial thoughts there? Like, and who does he bump off of power play 1?
Yeah, I think he definitely goes straight to power play 1. It's probably Kreider. Apparently in the last practice, like Lafreniere took at least 1 rep on power play 1 as well. I saw a tweet about that. So, and Kreider's ice time has dipped significantly. Last game he was playing with Hedl and Kaliev on a different line. So, yeah, I just think that Kreider's probably dealing with something, and they're like, hey, we could take away 4 minutes a night from Chris Kreider by doing this. So, yeah, I think that's the most likely scenario anyway. It would be like a different role for JT Miller, though, if they configured the power play the same way and just 1-for-1 replace JT Miller in Chris Kreider's spot in front of the net. So that could be an interesting portion of the program here. The thing with trades like this is I always say, like, some of these will work like gangbusters, and then it'll just be like lights out from the moment he steps on the ice. And there are always others, though, where it just does not work. Do you remember when Timo Meier got traded to the Devils and they were giving him every opportunity to, like, be the player that they thought they were getting, and he just could not get on track, like, basically the entire fantasy season from the trade onwards? And yeah, theoretically, it should be a good situation, but theoretically, it doesn't always work. So I'm interested to see how they're going to make this work at even strength. Like, They have Trocheck Zibanejad down the middle. Does JT Miller play on the wing here? Yeah, what's your thought on that, Blake?
Yeah, I think I mean that makes sense to me. It's hard to bump one of those guys. I mean, if anyone does get bumped, it's going to be Zibby, and his fantasy value could take an even bigger hit. I mean, he's been terrible this year, but if he gets bumped down to line 3, like
Yeah,
that's pretty painful, right? Still line 1, but I mean that's not good. So I'm kind of hoping they put Miller on the wing just to keep Zibanejad's floor kind of solid there for fantasy, but I could see it going both ways. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Like in terms of trades like this, it's like one thing I've learned from doing fantasy hockey for as long as I have now is I'm into as close to a sure thing as possible, which there really isn't. But
right.
I want to go with safe, right? So now you've got a guy that's brand new team, new systems, which isn't really a big deal, but it's more like learning to play with those new players. You got a new coach. Like, what's the vibe there? Miller has a kind of a gravity of his own. Um,
Hmm.
I'm with you. This is not a slam dunk. He goes to the Rangers and all of a sudden he's going to pop off. Like, don't forget, he took off some time here with the Vancouver Canucks at the beginning of the year that had nothing to do with Pedersen. It had
Hmm.
everything to do with something else. So is that resolved? I don't know. Like, I feel like this is going to be a down season for Miller. And I like the Timo Meier comparison. Like, he could get all the opportunity in the world, but at the end of the day, this is a guy who's really lived off of efficiency and being prioritized with the Vancouver Canucks. And now he's going to a team where that might not be the case, right? Like, they've got Panarin, they've got Trocheck, who's probably their 1C over there, right? So, yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I still think Miller's, he should be point per game. That should be where Miller lives, like as a floor. But I don't know what the ceiling is there. Talk to me about Philip Hedl and the Vancouver Canucks and what your thoughts are there, because even before you go, like I just obviously we've talked about Hedl before as a metrics guy, as someone who looks good under the hood, and just a player that hasn't been getting the deployment needed to really pop for fantasy. Do you think that he gets that opportunity here in Vancouver?
It's obviously pretty hard to tell at this point, but I mean, he should see top 6 time. That part is good. The thing is, like, Vancouver is not particularly deep on the wings, right? So if Pedersen's taking the better wingers, like in the game that they played here tonight against Dallas, it was Besser and DeBrusk on the Pedersen line, and who are you gonna match up Hedel with at that point? Connor Garland is like an adequate piece, but
You
like,
watch yourself. You watch yourself.
who else is really gonna
Kiefer
help Hedel?
Sherwood. Oh yeah, once he comes back.
Yeah, when Kiefer Sherwood comes back, he will once again hit people. So that would be great for Hedel, I'm sure, in his offensive output. But yeah, this is a guy who's been right around 9 shots per 60, so a little bit below like that kind of top tier level that we like to see them clear 10 shots per 60. He's
Yep.
got 9.6 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 on the year this year. He's previously had 2 seasons at 10.5 and 11.1, so he's done that in the past. So yeah, I think that there is a player here. I really do like the player. My concern is, if he doesn't get power play 1, it's pretty tough to envision him being anything more than just like a streamer when Vancouver has a really big week.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's all dependent. Like, these are homework games, these next few Vancouver Canucks games,
For
right?
sure.
You got to see what's going on with Hedel there, because, yeah, I think this is a player that is ready to go. But I mean, if he's, playing a middle 6 role power play 2, it's going to be more of the same from Hedel, right? And it is worth mentioning. I'm just looking it up right now. His profile on all 3 zones with Corey Schneider, very, very similar to Marty Necas. Very
Hmm.
similar. Like, he's in that realm, right? But Necas, even before he popped off this year, like, he had a 70-point season where he was getting
Right.
prioritized 2 years ago, right? Hedel hasn't had that. So, I mean, there's obvious differences there, but Hedel is that kind of, he's an offensive play driver. He's a puck rusher. He's
Hmm.
really talented offensively. So, hopefully he gets some deployment there. I think that's a player of interest. I added him in 2 spots as a spec ad because I want to, like we've talked about before, kind of trust the talent of a player. And, we're hoping for the best here, right? But I mean, I'm happy to drop the guy if he's not getting that deployment needed. Moving on, we got to talk about Marcus Pettersson. Is there any fantasy value for this player outside of category leagues, do you think, Nate?
No, I don't think so. I will be interested to see how they make this line up. Like, Hronik has obviously been the partner of choice for Hughes most of the time. I personally would expect that to continue, and Pedersen would play probably with Myers, I'm guessing, on a second pairing. But what do you think there, Blake?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I honestly think that Marcus Pedersen is better than the Canucks bottom four right now.
Yeah,
And not a lot better, but he's better.
yeah.
This is a good trade. I think it was a steep price they paid, a first rounder and their third rounder from last year. It feels a bit icky. So I'm hoping that obviously they're the professional hockey analysis people. I'm just the guy in my basement, but you know I hope that they know what they're doing. Obviously, like a first rounder for Marcus Pedersen seems like a steep price for just a guy that's going to break the puck out of the zone well and get you some hits and blocks on the regular. You know what I mean? He does have a little bit of offense there, but I mean, I think he's very similar to Philip Hronek, only he's not going to get the same kind of deployment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you like Philip Hronek, like take it down a notch, and now you got Marcus Pedersen, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with that. That's enough Canucks talk. Oh God, this is crazy, just crazy stuff, man. I am really interested to see Miller. I also think Pedersen is going to get a boost. Marcus, there's too many Pedersens over here. Elias Pedersen, the center, I think is going to get a boost from Miller leaving. We've talked about it before with more access to Quinn Hughes. He's going to get prioritized on the power play more, right? Because the Canucks power play was JT Miller and Quinn Hughes kind of back and forth, and then they would look for Besser in front or maybe pass it over to Petey for the one-timer. But now Petey's going to be more involved with that kind of puck movement, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be a boost for him there. Let's move on, buddy. Miro Heiskanen, Miro the hero, buddy. That cold cut combo, he's out on the IR. That stinks. The timeline's a little fuzzy there. Sounds like he is going to be out through the Four Nations tournament there. So to me, Thomas Harley must add. You got to add Thomas Harley. Dallas power play stinks, but Harley in that game, Heiskanen got injured. He played like 27 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think he played 25 tonight with an assist. It's going to be wheels up for Thomas Harley. This is a big time puck rusher, great at generating offense. I'm a big fan of Thomas Harley. This is a guy that we've sort of. Was he on your list in that podcast you did earlier on in the season where you're talking about kind of defensemen behind the defenseman?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Harley, he showed out, right? Like we already saw it last year when Heiskanen went down last year. Harley stepped in and he was like a top. I think he was like a top 5 fantasy defenseman for like
Yeah.
however long it was. I don't remember exactly, but he was legit for that period of time. I don't know if we should expect the same heights this year,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely a player that should be rostered and probably will perform as at least like a number 2 defenseman on your squad.
Yeah, and something that I find really interesting, I was digging into this a little bit, just Dallas as a team, and we've talked about it before, the way they've sort of changed their offensive design. They're more of a rush team this year as opposed to last year where they were kind of a cycle and forecheck, and they're literally number 1 at generating shots off the rush. And Thomas Harley is an amazing rushing defenseman. So I don't know. I mean, I'm putting 1 and 1 together. Does it equal 3? I don't know. Nate, can you help me out with this?
1 and 1 does not equal 3. There you go.
Oh,
Glad to help.
damn. All right. My son lied to me. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, I think Thomas Harley's going to be uber valuable here while Heiskanen is out. Let's move on over to the Leafs. John Tavares, Matthew Nyes tracking the play on Saturday. That's great news. So, check your lineups there. I mean, I would assume Tavares gets back with Big Willie style, and maybe can help him out, kind of get back to his 100-point ways. That really hasn't been the case this year. But yeah, I'm excited about that because in the league I have John Tavares. I also have Logan Cooley, which I want to talk about next. He got injured against the Penguins, and now he's out indefinitely. So I was able to put Cooley in the IR and put JT back in the lineup. Just in case you were worried about my teams, folks, that's the update there. But
Very worried.
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Nate. So yeah, Logan Cooley injured. That really stinks. He was able to finish the game against the Penguins. What a beast. So fantasy implications there for Cooley being out. It's Barrett Hayton, power play 1. I think that's the big time beneficiary there. And then Alex Kerfoot on line 1. Of course, he got a point tonight, in the game they played. But do you give the rat's ass about Alex Kerfoot, Nate?
No.
All right, sweet. That's confirmed. Also, still with the hockey club here, or what are they going to name this team? Give me your take here. Outlaws, or what's the other one? Mammoth. What do you hope? Or just hockey club? What's your vote here, Nate? You got to vote. What is it?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of any of them, if I'm being truly honest. At this point, I just I think I would just stick with Hockey Club. It's like
Oh
I was
yeah.
listening to 32 Thoughts, and Kyle Bukauskas made the point. He's like, it's actually like unique across the league, right? Like they're the only team that have that, and there's something there. I don't mind when you say it like Utah HC. It actually does like kind of roll off the tongue a little bit. I don't mind it. I just don't really like the other options, so I'm kind of just lean in, stick with what you got. But maybe I'm just boring.
I didn't want to say anything, Nate, but damn, Hockey Club, what the hell? It's like, yeah, that Rob Lowe meme where he has the NFL hat. Like, hey, I like sports. It's like, buddy, no. Like, we need an identity, and it's got to be, I like Outlaws. I actually do, but it makes me think of Yosemite Sam from Looney Tunes. Did you ever watch Looney Tunes, Nate? Is
Yeah.
that okay? Oh, wow. That's kind of a deep cut for you. That was like the 1950s, Nate. So yeah, I guess I don't know. I appreciate that. Anyways, yeah, Outlaws for me, Hockey Club for Nate. Nate's wrong. I'm right. Let's move on. We should, while we're talking about the Hockey Club here, Dylan Gunther is getting closer, and the reports are he could return prior to the Four Nations tournament. So that's great. Obviously, they need that. They're getting decimated there in their top six. I mean, you got Kerfoot on line one. Things are not good. All right, that's a problem. Let's talk about Nate's sleeper of the year, Adam Boqvist, signed by the Islanders. Oh man, Nate, I'm actually really interested in your take on Boqvist with the Islanders, and also they're stockpiling these type of defensemen like Scott Perunovich, Tony DeAngelo, and now Adam Boqvist with Noah Dobson out. Can you are you interested in any of those players, and how would you rank them?
I ranked them power play 1, power play 2, not on the power play. Yeah, I mean that's basically how I'm gonna do it. D'Angelo has been there so far. I also don't trust any of these players as far as I can throw them. I think
Yeah.
we've seen enough from each of them at this point to probably conclusively say that they're not likely to get on any kind of big bender. So I'm really quite out on all three.
Mm.
I would roster whoever is on power play 1, if I needed a fourth defenseman or something like that. Won't hate on anyone who does that, but yeah, that's the extent of my interest.
Yeah, it matters for sure. These type of players are interesting to me. I might do a pod on this in the off season, like these like 15-minute defensemen, guys like Brant Clark too. Like, I'd love to talk to like an analyst, like one, a guy like Corey Schneider or Jay Fresh or somebody like Cam Robinson. Like, what is it that these guys do that they can't get out there for minutes? Like, and are they similar, or are they just terribly bad at defense? Like, there's a lot of players like this that we sometimes get excited about in fantasy, and then it never seems to pan out, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I mean, you shouldn't speak that way about Tony DeAngelo. This is a guy who's his lowest time on ice in the last 3 games is 22-11,
Oh my God.
28-14 in the last game, Blake.
I stand corrected, buddy. The amount of starch in that man's collar is just unbelievable. It's very good for his posture. He's just the coolest guy. He wears sunglasses on the ice. I mean,
Yeah,
geez, buddy.
I'm not a fan of the haircut, but
Yeah, no, well, yeah, haircut is, I mean, geez, buddy. We got to get an extreme makeover in here. Some type of, like, let's get some color in there. What do you like, a rainbow maybe on the side or something? Just really spruce it up. You know what I'm talking about, Nate?
I think that would be a pretty good look for Tony D.
Yeah, shout out to Tony D. Dingus of the year goes to you. All right. Let's fly through the rest of this. Brandon Saad signs with Vegas. He's going to be a middle six forward and a streamer. I don't care about that. Well, another trade here, actually, buddy. Big Kuzi. He's back in the news. Andre Kuzmenko and Jacob Peltier got traded to Philly for the Tinkly Winkly man, Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. Give me your quick take on that trade there, because we haven't been able to talk about it so far. Do you think there's any fantasy goodness in here?
Not much probably. I don't think Torts is gonna like Kuzmenko at all.
Oh,
Peltier might get a chance to just become another cog in the top 9 there in Philadelphia, and he'll have like 1 week where he's good and then 4 weeks where he's bad. Um, Honestly, Calgary kind of has a top 9 thing going right now too. But that being said, I think Farabee is the guy that I have the most interest in. I honestly don't know, Blake. We've talked a lot about Farabee, but I honestly don't know how much of that has been on the pod or just in our
right.
conversations
Yep.
offline. But yeah, both of us are kind of into Farabee.
Yep.
We think there's a real player here. We think that Torts absolutely hated his guts and just kind of held him down on purpose. But yeah, I think that if Joel Farabee gets some run, and like Calgary has a few slots where it would make some sense, like you know, if you put him like Pospisil on that line with Kadri and Huberto, what if that's Farabee now?
Yeah. Bounce
I don't know if
possible. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
necessarily like a stylistic fit, but like that could be an interesting spot. Could they finally give Igor Sharangovich somebody to play with? Somebody who can set him up in good spots and so he can get that shot off.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just think there's better options for him to play more minutes, potentially power play. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of potential opportunity for Farabee. I added him speculatively, as you like to say, Blake,
Love
in one
that.
spot.
Love that. You spec added Joel Farabee. It's great, man. Like, I'm interested in the player for sure. It's just, yeah, another homework game. You got to watch and see what Calgary's going to do here. But if this guy sniffs power play one and is in around 17 to 19 minutes, I think he's an ad. You got to add Joel Farabee. Like, he was getting decimated by John Tortorella. That's really it. That's the situation, folks. Like, he didn't like Joel Farabee and he let him know. So, but under the hood, Joel Farabee is an amazing offensive chance generator, shot assist, chance assist, and he's great at zone entries, right? Like, his profile on Corey Schneider stuff is ridiculous. Like, it doesn't even make sense. This guy should have like 60 points, but he's riding pine. So I'm definitely interested in Farabee right now. Daily Faceoff has Farabee, Frost, and Sharangovich on the third line there. I don't hate that. That's pretty nice. I mean, maybe if you make it the second line, and then you got Backlund, Coleman, and Coronado on the third line, sort of. I kind of like that. Calgary is weirdly strong at this point now. Like, I like what Craig Conroy said too. I know we're getting long here in the news. We're going to fly, but he was just saying that this team earned that trade. They earned the opportunity to get to stock up with some really good players, and I think they got a couple good ones in Frost and Farabee. So, yeah, I don't know. You got any other thoughts on that?
Nope, I agree. I think Calgary comes out a pretty clear winner in this one.
Sweet. All right, let's move on. Owen Tippett, sticking with the Flyers. He's injured upper body injury, missed Thursday's game.
Injury.
His uppy body is injured. That doesn't make any sense. So check his status there. Brant Clark with the LA Kings, 2 healthy scratches in a row. Now that Doughty is back, I think the Brant Clark experiment is over for the season. This is obviously a player with major acumen and I think a bright future, but he's obviously going to have to figure out how to play defense if he's going to be a defenseman. So that's clearly the issue there with Brant Clark, but the offense is elite, as we know, and we saw at points here this year. In Seattle, Philip Grubauer put on waivers. I mean, why did it take so long? Jeez. I mean, this guy's horrendous. So, but Joey Daccord, 0G, folks, it works. All right. That means 0 goalies. All right. You getting it? You getting what I'm putting down here? Anyways, Joey Daccord easily picked up off your waivers earlier on the season. Now he has a big time boost in value with Grubauer down. So there you go. And lastly, Charlie McAvoy in Boston was activated off the IR the other day, played a game, and is back on power play 1. So Mason Lowry, thank you for your service. Get the hell out of my team. We got McAvoy in here. So yeah, that's it for the news. Lots of news. I know that was a beefer. We're gonna get flying here, buddy. Talk to us about that schedule. We got to attack that dang thing.
All right, let's attack that schedule this week. We have 1 game on Monday, 14 games on Tuesday, 3 games on Wednesday, 9 games on Thursday, 5 games on Friday, 14 games on Saturday, and 2 games on Sunday. It's 48 total games played. Comes out as a light week overall, despite the 2 super heavy nights with the 14 games. We've got 1 team with a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, but given that Tuesday's 14 games, you're probably not getting them in there. That's Ottawa. There are no teams with Monday, Wednesday off nights to open the week. There are 4 teams with Wednesday, Friday off nights. That's Chicago, Edmonton, LA, and the New York Rangers. And there are also 0 teams with Friday, Sunday off nights. So your best course of action here, I think, is to try to get a couple off nights in by Friday, probably through one of those Wednesday, Friday teams. That's pretty much all we got. And then, try to work in some goalie streaming Saturday, Sunday, single game stuff there. That's probably the best way that you're going to be able to go about this. It's also a good week to load up for the following week. There's not a lot of streaming impact here. If somebody drops somebody who shouldn't have been dropped in your league, this might be the time to get in there and grab that player. You might want to look ahead on the schedule as well. After this week, we go into the Four Nations break. So there's going to be 2 weeks with no NHL hockey. And so you're going to be twiddling your thumbs, no ads to make. And so get yourself set up so you're not feeling too pressed about it when we come back to fantasy after the Four Nations. Are you pumped for the Four Nations, Blake?
You know what's weird, man? I haven't been thinking about it. I'm not as pumped as everyone else. Like even the players seem pumped. They're like, I need to get on that team. Drew Doughty's like, I got to get on that team. I'm like, what is this? You know, like I care about NHL hockey, but I think once it starts, like I'm going to be very into it and very excited about it. Like it's just when you're playing best on best. I mean, for the most part, obviously we don't have the Russians in here, right? Which a lot of really good players, but you know, it's going to be a great tournament. Plus we're not going to stop here at Apples and Ginos. We got content out the wazoo and I'm excited to bring you that stuff too. But I think we should do a pod talking about the Four Nations. I think that would be really fun too.
I think that'd be fun. Maybe we can work out like a live stream of the Canada US game or something like that where we can all just sit and watch together for a bit. That'd be fun.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right, let's think about that, but let's also think about lowering expectations for some players. Blake, take us through it.
What a segue. Unbelievable. Lowered expectations. That's the Texas version. Okay, so because this week is so stinky, it's these teams here. Like we've got 3 teams that play 2 games with 0 off nights, and they all play on the busy Tuesday, which is a 14 gamer, and a busy Saturday, which is a 14 gamer. It's Anaheim, Buffalo, and Detroit. So you're not going to be getting any streamer level players in on those nights. It's just not going to happen. So I think this lowered expectations segment is actually really important, and we need to sort of identify what that cutoff line is because it's going to behoove you to probably drop some of these players this week. So let's get into it. Starting with Anaheim, we got Frank the Tank Vetrano, who's been doing stuff as of late. Yeah, really, really nice to see actually, like at a slow start, but now he's kind of cooking again. Metrics look good. Jacob Trouba, Radko Gudas, obviously those are your banger boys. So you know, you're going to be hard pressed to drop him in bangers leagues, but Jackson Lacombe is one that's interesting to me because he's been playing so well. Troy Terry, again, you know what we think about him, and Mason McTavish. These guys are all doing stuff. So how are you managing these Anaheim Ducks here in this 2-game week where it's going to be really tough to get these guys in? Are these guys better than the other guys on your bench?
Yeah, that's going to be the kind of the crucial part of it for sure. And yeah, it's definitely not a foregone conclusion, especially given the schedule that these guys have. Maybe, you know, maybe there's one of the 2 nights where you happen to have just a weird alignment and you can fit them all in. But yeah, it's a tough spot. Frank Vetrano, I think you got to hold. The metrics have been great all year long, and pucks are going in right now. 4 goals in his last 5. Trouba Gudas, I think I would be okay dropping Gudas in it, or Trouba rather, in a bangers, but I don't think I would drop Gudas. I do think he's at that level where he's worth holding all year long. Jackson Lacombe, I'm trying to not drop Jackson Lacombe, to be honest. 4 points in his last 5, almost 23 minutes a night. Underlying metrics look pretty solid. Troy Terry, I can't drop because I'm contractually obligated not to. And then Mason McTavish. Honestly, I would drop McTavish. It's most likely that we've seen his best stretch of the season here with 6 goals in his last 5. Underlying metrics look pretty good, at least individually, but it's still just 60.5 minutes a night. I'm not going to, if he's not making my lineup on those 2 nights, then I'm kicking him to the curb.
Yeah, we're approaching playoffs, right? Like it's still a little ways away, but we can't be farting around here. We got to get these dubs and we got to stack these dubs, right? Because best case scenario, we're getting the bye. That's what we want. But next best case scenario, like you get as many points as humanly possible, right? And we can't sit with these dinguses on your bench. All right. So let's move on to Buffalo. It's the same situation. And we're looking at guys like JJ Peterka, who Hell no, I'm not dropping JJ Peterka. Damn, he's really gonna hurt me this week because I've got him in a couple spots, but I can't quit the man. I'm glad he's starting to cook again. The guy has 8 points in his last 5. I love that. But I mean, their secondary defense, Bo and Byram, Owen Power, the Power Glove. I think they're pretty easy drops to me. And then Dylan Cousins, who actually had a pretty nice game, at least shot wise here tonight, which is Friday. Or no, it was hits. Yeah, he had like 5 hits and 3 shots. Like, had a good game peripherally. Wasn't able to get on the score sheet. But talk to me about, all those players. Like Peterka. Are you holding Peterka?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to hold Peterka right now. Getting big minutes, 41 in shots per 60 in terms of rank amongst all forwards.
41th. Oh, yeah.
41th.
I love that.
I mean, 8 points in his last 5. Pretty tough to drop that kind of production off your team. I would be okay to drop Power and Byram. Would be okay to drop Cousins. Would be okay to drop Yuri Kulich if you were.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about Zucker either. Yeah, Zucker and Kulich.
And yeah, Zucker as well. I'm okay to basically drop everybody except for Peterka, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I think just right in line with what we've just been talking about. These guys are expendable, unfortunately, even though they're good players, right? So Get ready to pick them up again. If your playoffs are in week 22 to 24, those guys are all going to be valuable for you, right? But for now, get the hell off my team. Okay, let's move on to Detroit. That's the other team here with the 2 games, 0 off nights. And yeah, these are much easier decisions here on Detroit. Marco Kasper, 5 points in 5 games. Decent deployment and metrics, but no. We're not holding on to him. Vladimir Tarasenko, buddy, no. Like Patrick Kane could potentially be back here as soon as this weekend. I'm hoping he is. But even if he's not, Tarasenko's not providing enough value there at all to hold on to him. So, I mean, any interest in any of these Detroit players, or are they all like easy drops for this upcoming week?
Kasper is obviously the one of the most interest with the recent production. His ice time has gone way up in the last 2 games as well, and the underlying metrics have looked pretty good in the last few games. So he's line 1 with Larkin, power play 1 as well.
Power play 1?
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't know
that. That part, we don't really know if that'll continue. Patrick Kane working his way back from injury, so most likely Patrick Kane, given his status as a future Hall of Famer, probably takes over his power play spot again there. But I think I would probably drop Kasper in a lot of spots.
Yep.
But it's not going to feel good this week. He's been very good. I kind of poo-pooed him earlier in the week. I think on the puzzling players, it might have been a little bit. And he's been terrific ever since. So I'm just going to take the credit and say that that's my doing.
How dare you? How dare you poo-poo Marco Kasper? All right, the friendly ghost. He's friendly. All right, so that's those are all the teams with 2 games, 0 off nights. Let's move on to Winnipeg, who has 2 games with 1 off night, and that's all right, I guess. I mean, they play Tuesday, then they play Friday. So, I mean, you're not getting them until Friday, and we're talking streamers here, folks. So I think it's going to be a tough ride, just in the same boat as these teams that we just talked about. But Nino Niederreiter, Cole Perfetti, Mom Spaghetti. I don't know. Is there anybody else on Winnipeg, even of that we're at all interested in? Like, I think those 2 are easy drops.
Yeah. Everybody in Winnipeg is an easy drop for the upcoming week, in my opinion.
All right, sweet. You heard it here first, folks. Don't blame me. Blame Nate. Okay. And there's 13 teams that play 3 games with 0 off nights. That's it. Again, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to check your lineups. But remember that Tuesday and Saturday are big time 14 game nights. It's going to be hard to get players in there. So that's it for those teams. Now we got to move on to the section that Nate really enjoys. We call it Crossing the Streams. All right. It's the best teams to stream for this upcoming week. And we got to talk about it. But, before we get into that, Nate, I did forget to tell you. You remember the other night when we were supposed to get together for a drink, but you had to cancel last minute? You remember you got like a bee bit your bottom? You remember that? Like it was just getting all swollen. You're really sore. You weren't into it, right? That bee bit your bottom and then it died. Okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Anyways, I had the night free, so I decided to go see a movie by myself. Okay. And I saw Wicked for like the 10th time, right? I mean, Nate and I were, that's kind of our, Thursday night routine. We do it. We get pumped up. But I went to go see it for the 10th time. I'm walking home from the theater. I'm all hopped up on Pixie Sticks, right? I was actually, the theater's in kind of a pretty swanky part of town. So I'm staring at the houses and I notice I'm on the street where JT Miller lives. Really weird. And, I only knew that because he has a giant mural of himself painted on one side of the house, right? And it's a picture of him wearing Archer Seelov's pink shirt from last year's playoffs, right? And yeah, I did like one thing that's interesting about the mural. This is a side note, but the V is a very plunging, deep V. It wasn't exactly accurate to, what I remembered, but, it stuck out to me. Anyways, I'm walking home. All right. And honestly, I just guzzled like a liter of Mountain Dew, right? I'm at the theater, and I was percolating, right? And I noticed that JT he has a koi pond, a beautiful koi pond right in the front yard with a statue of, get this, buddy, Elias Pettersson right in his front yard. Of all people, right in the middle. He's in a fountain. There's koi swimming around. It's Pettersson with his stick there. It could have been the bag of Sour Kids that I ate, the whole bag, right? But I was feeling pretty froggy. I was feeling dangerous, and I decided to go for it, all right? So I made it to the fountain, and I got this wild idea, all right? What if I cross the stream solo? You know what I mean? Like, is that even possible? And I wouldn't recommend this, Nate, but it takes a lot of cunning, some fast feet, and a little luck. But basically, you start going, right? And then you have to cut it off and quickly move to the side, and then you aim for the stream, right? So you're crossing your own stream, right? And if it works, it's glorious. Like, I got to say, I've never felt more like a man. Okay, I felt empowered. I felt masculine energy. I got a couple good ones in, but it stung a bit. It was totally worth it. Anyways, then I hear what sounded like an angry bear yelling, like, "Get off my lawn!" He was just like that, and clearly it was JT, right? He's running out the door. He's in his ginch. Okay. And then I zipped.
He's lost the plot.
And then I zipped up and I tried to take off, but I ended up running right into the statue of Petey's hockey stick he was holding right in my face. It knocked me clean out. Okay. And then I wake up. I mean, I just wake up and basically I'm staring into this beautiful chiseled jaw, these fierce blue eyes or whatever color of eyes Miller has. And he's tending to my injuries, like I was like a baby bird and he was mama birding me. And, I felt like we were really connected and we could have been, really good friends. But now, you can see like he gets traded, right? It wasn't meant to be. So anyways, moral of the story, Nate, you can't be leaving me alone on bros night anymore. I can't be trusted. Okay.
I have so many notes from this performance.
I love that. You know what's funny? One of our listeners, he takes these crossing the stream stories and puts it into Chat GPT and like gets actual feedback, like literary feedback, and it presents me with a score for my story. And I haven't been able to get higher than 6. So I'm hoping that this story right here is a solid 7 out of 10. What do you think, Nate?
Well, I really want to know if the koi in the pond were okay after you poisoned the fountain with your stream.
Yeah, well, you know what? Normally it's just urine. It's actually pretty clean, except that it was Mountain Dew, like ruby red or whatever the hell. Like that stuff's like nuclear waste, right? So yeah, let's just say the koi were damaged. A couple of them maybe grew like a third eye or something, but it was kind of kitschy. I mean, Miller's just going to take him with him, wherever he goes to New York there. So.
Yeah, I also thought that the Elias Pettersson statue, when you said he was holding his stick, I thought that this story was going to an entirely different place in terms of crossing the streams. But
oh god, where did you think it was going, Nate? I mean,
I don't think that's
what's going on in that.
I think this is taking too long. I think we need to keep.
Yeah,
going.
No, we definitely went too long on that. And I'm saying we, not me. Okay, we're talking about crossing the streams, folks. This is hockey. This is fantasy hockey. What the hell?
Allegedly.
Right. Alleged, yeah, that is alleged. Okay, there's one team that has a okay schedule here for this upcoming week here. The Montreal Canadiens. Oh God. And what the hell are we doing with it? It's the best guy you can get on the Canadiens, Yuri Slavkovsky. He's 53% rostered over on Yahoo. I mean, okay. He should probably be added definitely for this week. I mean, I think you could add Kirby Doc maybe, or he should be on the list here. Arbor Jakai for Bangers Leagues. Talk to me about the Montreal Canadiens, and are you targeting some of these players here for this upcoming week, Nate?
If Slavkovsky was out there, I would definitely be interested in him for this week. That's more an indictment on the other players available with off nights, but
not good.
Yeah. Kirby Doc is atrocious at hockey, so I would not be interested in rostering him.
Oh, damn.
And then Xhekaj is just for hits and blocks, doing some banger stuff, obviously. But yeah, it is slim pickings in Montreal for sure.
Take a look for Mike Matheson. I've seen him dropped in so many spots. He's getting a lot of hate out there. I picked him up in a spot that he was dropped. I mean, it's not as excited as I would be at the beginning of the year, but still, it's the professor. He's going to be skating around out there, dipsy doodling around for 27 minutes a night, maybe giving you some periffs and the occasional points. So anyways, check for Mike Matheson. I think he's reasonable for this week upcoming. Let's move on. There are 5 teams that play 3 games with 2 off nights. And again, these off nights are going to be mega valuable this week here. So these are the 5 teams: Chicago, Edmonton, LA, Nashville, and the New York Rangers. Let's start with the Chicago Blackhawks. All right. Well, I think when you're talking about the Blackhawks, you got to talk about whoever has access to Bedard. That's really it, isn't it, Nate? So, yeah. I mean, Tyler Bertuzzi, right off the bat, like that's your guy. Frank Nazar. Those are the guys I think currently playing with Connor Bedard, if I'm not mistaken. You also got Toivo Teravainen, who's doing some work on the power play. Ryan Donato, metrics guy. Connor Murphy, beefer. I mean, what's your pleasure here with Chicago?
Yeah, really, Bertuzzi is the one getting the most minutes, and honestly, everybody in Chicago looks pretty terrible under the hood.
Ew,
so,
yeah.
like,
it's not good.
You're just trying to roll with Bertuzzi and hope that the minutes translate into some production. They have at various times throughout the year, but just 2 points his last 5 now. I still think he's probably the best bet. Donato has 4 points in his last 5, and Nazar has 4 points in his last 5.
Yep.
But neither of those inspire a lot of confidence for me personally.
Yeah, this is going to be a gross week. Like, we just have to accept it, folks. We're going to be doing a lot of one-game goalie streams, and I don't mind one-game goalie streams, but I hate one-game player streams. I never do a one-game player stream. That makes no sense. So I don't know. It's going to be gross, but that's what we're dealing with here. Move on to Edmonton here. We got the twirly woo Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson. See you at the party, Victor. The Klingon, John Klingberg. He's there. He's out there. He's skating with Matthias Ekholm. I don't know what the hell to expect from John Klingberg here on Edmonton. I thought it was a strange signing, but I mean, see if he's out there. Adam Henrique, Pod Colson, Corey Perry, who actually played with McDavid and Draisaitl the other night. They had that as a line for some point of the evening. Any interest at all in these Edmonton players?
Yeah, it's obviously pretty slim pickings here as well. I guess Arvidsson is the guy that you're the most interested in here, but yeah, it's a tough look for sure. Klingberg, I have no interest in whatsoever.
You've been hurt.
Gonna be on the
You've been hurt by Klingberg.
Yeah, I have been hurt by Klingberg, so I'm not interested in that. Corey Perry, I threw on the list just because he was getting a look on the top line there for a minute. So yeah, if that comes back around, then you could get into that. And Edmonton does this, right, with all their forward lines. But yeah, that was the line that came out today. Draisaitl, McDavid, Perry, Arvidsson, RNH Hyman, Podkolzin, Henrique Brown, Skinner on the 4th line there. So yeah, I'm really not into Skinner at all. He's kind of the most rostered of this group, but I'm really not interested. He may very well be scratched the next game. Not interested. Really, it's Arvidsson or bust, honestly, for me. Yeah. But yeah, you could take a deeper stab at Perry or Podkolzin or whoever's playing higher up the lineup at any given moment, I guess.
Yep, makes sense to me. I want to double down. I really want to do a pod about these guys. Like we talked about the defensemen who are getting 15 minutes and can't play defense. I want to identify these guys that are like kind of shiny for fantasy, like Jeff Skinner, but like underneath that they don't play defense. Guys like Kuzmenko as well. Like they're not going to be there at the end, right? Their minutes are going to fall off, and it's just an interesting thing. So I don't know. I'm digressing there, but obviously we know Jeff Skinner has elite offensive talent, but something about his game doesn't translate into actual time on ice with whatever team he's playing with for the most part. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going on with diatribe there. Anyways, let's go to LA Kings. We got some better options here. So, I mean, Chicago, no, get the hell out of my sight. Edmonton, I don't think so. we got the Kings. All right. We got Quentin Byfield, who I think is absolutely reasonable this week, should be added for this week. Trevor Moore, I think, is an ad. Alex Laferriere can be added. I think those guys all make sense to me. And then, now we're looking at some pretty slim pickings. Tanner Jeannot, obviously in bangers leagues. McLovin, Warren Fogle, Philip Deneau. Talk to me about the Kings, Nate, and sort of your temperature with these players.
Yeah, I think Byfield is the clear number one just by virtue of the fact that he's getting 19 plus minutes. It's a volume thing there. Then next, I think I would go Laferriere, 27th in individual scoring chances 4/60 over the last 4 games that he's been a part of.
Ooh.
So I might go there. Then, yeah, it's probably Moore is the correct answer. Fogle has some decent underlying numbers. Philip Deneau has been a
Yeah.
travesty in terms of
Yeah.
offensive production this
Horrible
year.
fantasy player.
Yeah, so, and honestly, he'd been a pretty reliable streamer for a number of years in LA. So tough to see that happening here, but yeah, that's my temperature on LA at the moment.
Beautiful. All right. Nashville is the next team here. 3 games, 2 off nights. And I got to shut up my man, Brady Shea. This is a guy that I actually really liked towards the end of last season and into the playoffs. I wrote an article for the Hockey News talking about Brady Shea, just and kind of what he's bringing to the table. And he had a decent playoffs, but it hasn't really equaled some production this year with Nashville, but he's starting to pop off lately. Goal and an assist tonight here on Friday. I like what Brady Shea's bringing to the table. I think that's a reasonable ad. Ryan O'Reilly, I mean, you got to have him on your team in a week like this. There's no question to me. Luke Schenn, Gus Nyquist, and how about our boy Svechkov? He's been doing stuff ever since you talked about him there, Nate. So give me your take on these Preds.
Yeah, for sure. I think O'Reilly is a pretty clear ad for this week. If you've got something there in your league, if he's available, that's a good look. Brady Shea as well. I think that's a good look. Yeah, the points are starting to catch back up to where they should be. Nashville isn't a total tire fire anymore, although they're finding it hard to close out some of these games. Shen, obviously, just there for bangers. Nyquist is getting 18 plus minutes a night, and the on ice numbers look pretty good the last 5 games, so I don't hate that look either. Svechkov, I think there's a player here,
Yeah.
like I mentioned in the flagship pod, but in the game here tonight, it was 9 minutes, 48 seconds time on ice. That's obviously not going to cut it. Still managed an assist in that time. But yeah, it's more a player to monitor than necessarily pick up unless you're in a pretty deep league at this point. But did want to make sure I got his name mentioned one more time here.
Yeah, you bet, buddy. Nice call out there. I tried to trade for him in the A&G Dynasty League. It's John Benkel. He rebuffed me. He couldn't hit the decline button quicker. I was just like, buddy, come on. I think I gave him a roster player, and a third rounder. No dice. He was keeping Fedor. So that's fine. Shout out to Banksy. Let's move on. Last team I want to talk about here, New York Rangers. Again, not great options here, right? We got Will Cooley for bangers. He obviously, was doing something offensively early on in the season. That's kind of fallen off a cliff here. So, temper expectations there. He's still doing the banger thing, so that's nice. Keandre Miller, I mean, bangs. That's what you want. Riley Smith, if that is something you're into, but we got to see what it looks like here with JT Miller in the lineup. Any interest in those 3 players?
Yeah, I think Cooley is mostly just a bangers option. Miller, if you're desperate for another defenseman for some reason. Riley Smith, I guess, has 4 points in his last 5, but I don't trust that either, especially with Miller coming to town. Like you said, we need to see what the lines are going to look like here.
Miller is coming to town. Oh, yeah, Miller. No, it's terrible. Sorry. Sorry, folks. It's not the best. All right. There are 3 teams that play 4 games with 1 off night, and we're not going to go do deep dive into the players here, but it's Ottawa, it's Tampa Bay, it's Utah. And honestly, you're probably just looking for a defenseman here, aren't you, Nate? If you have a 4th spot open. I'm reading Nate's notes here, folks, so I'm going to get to him in a second. But, talk to me about the players you're interested in from Ottawa, Tampa Bay, and Utah if you're looking at D.
Yeah, realistically, there's one defenseman you could look at from each of these spots. Darren Radish from Tampa. You got Thomas Chabot has been dropped in a lot of spots down to 55% rostered. He might be available for you. And then Michael Kessering from Utah. Honestly, Darren Radish is the only one that interests me most from this list. He is still getting power play one deployment. He got less actual power play ice time than Victor Hedman in the last game, but that was he was still deployed with Braden Point basically. So that to me means power play one. I would expect the minutes to flip back around by the next game. As long as Radish remains on power play one, Tampa, he should definitely be rostered. Thomas Shabbat, just think he's having a real tough season. Ottawa's finding it hard to score goals in some of these games here, and yeah, in years past you'd be excited to see him on your wire.
Yep.
This is not that year. And then Michael Kesselring. If Sergachev was still out, he might be higher on this list. But with Sergachev back, Kesselring kind of goes back to a very secondary option here.
Nate, are you one of those guys that eats a raw radish with like salt? Do you ever do that? I've seen
No.
people do that. I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, we have chips in the cupboard. Like, you're eating a radish with salt on it. Like, are you okay? You know what I mean? Have you ever seen anyone do this?
Yeah, my wife eats raw radishes.
All right, mine does too. I don't know what is that. I mean, I literally I'm basically like throwing my wife under the bus, but all right, she's eating radishes over here. She gave my daughter one the other night, and she's like, I'm like, what do you mean? It's not. No, like that's disgusting. Anyways, carry on. Shout out to Darren Radish, Nate, the Patreon. The people need to know about it.
All right, $2 a month gets you the supporter tier access to patron only live shows. There will be one coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. Apple's tier, $8 a month, gets you patron-only live shows, patron-only Discord channels, the show notes for this show here, the Waiver Wire show, and the flagship show. Also gets you access to the Apples and Genos player evaluation tool so you can make informed decisions on your ads, your drops, your trades, what have you. $15 a month. Geno's tier for the true degenerates gets you all the previous perks mentioned, plus every single question guaranteed to be answered by yours truly. Blake, are you ready for the dream streams?
I'm ready, buddy. This man doesn't stop, folks. You need to get your biscuits in there, all right? He's answering questions and even personal questions, right? It doesn't even have to be about fantasy hockey. He'll talk about it all night long. I message him randomly at like 3 a.m. I always get a response, all right? But I do pay for that service.
All right. Let's get over to the dream streams. Basically, this is where I rank all of the best players for point production. And basically, these are just a list of guys who have the 2 off nights because that's probably the only time you're getting anybody in this kind of really annoying, terrible week for streaming purposes. Ryan O'Reilly at the top, Slavkovsky number 2, Bertuzzi number 3. Then I got Byfield, Laferriere, Arvidsson, Moore, Donato, Nyquist, and then I did throw Svechkov at the end just because I wanted to shout him out if we didn't spend much time on him before.
Yeah.
Put him on the bottom of the list here. Yeah, for myself, I think I would call O'Reilly, Slavkovsky, and Bertuzzi the top tier. You could argue that Byfield could be considered in that top tier, and I would hear that argument. Then I think Byfield, Laferriere is a tier for me. And then Arvidsson, Moore, and then beyond that, it gets really dicey for me. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, no, I think I probably put Byfield up over Bertuzzi. I just like Byfield. I've had him in a couple spots, so it's kind of recency bias too. Like I see he's been doing stuff out there, but yeah, I mean it's a gross week. He got a goal. He did that. He scored a goal, Nate. I mean, don't poo-poo this man the way you poo-pooed others. All right, Quentin Byfield is a legend, but yeah, I like
2
Ryan
goals
O'Reilly
in his
there.
last 12. Terrific stuff.
Don't do the 12. All right, no, that's disingenuous. All right, let's move on, Nate. What are we doing?
All right, let's continue on. Best for hits. Will Cooley is that dude. A couple guys on Chicago have been throwing the body around. Colton Dock, Louis Crevier. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Apologies to. I guess if I'm saying the second part with a French accent, I should probably try to say the first part.
Give it the full. Let me hear your best French accent. Come on.
No, we're not doing that.
Oh, damn it.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Shit. Okay.
Let's move on. Slavkovsky is actually pretty good for that as well. So that's another bonus to picking up Slavkovsky if hits are worth something in your league. And then Jekai as well from Montreal. On the block side, Alec Martinez is still in the league and doing that for the Chicago Blackhawks. The block god himself. David Savard, Ryan Lindgren, Braden Schneider, and Lane Hudson, believe it or not, showing out in the last little bit with the blocks. So I had to shout him out here as well. What do you say, Blake? What do we like in terms of this group here?
I like it all. All right. All the periffs, all the time. Buddy, imagine being known for a guy that blocks shots. Like, that's a cool thing. Like, when you're out there on the ice and you got, like, I don't know if you're this type of player, but like, buddy blocks like 3 shots in a shift. You're like, yes. All right, let's get it. Like, I'll run through a wall for this man. So shout out to these block boys.
Shout out to the block boys. All right, let's move on to Hold Me. And let's talk about which players we would like to hold the most in a dark room. Number one on the list has
Dimly lit.
still dimly lit.
You
Yeah,
want to
that's
see
probably
something,
better.
mate. I mean, dark. No.
Okay. Brian Rust, number one on the list. Troy Terry, Marco Rossi, Tyler Toffoli, Dmitry Voronkov, Jonathan Drouin, Adam Fantilli, Nick Schmaltz. Honestly, I think this top 8 feels really good to me. Any of these guys, I think, are probably guys that you would feel pretty confident about holding for a long time at this point. Marco Rossi, with Kaprizov out of the lineup, that pretty much cements Rossi on power play 1. You can argue whether having Kaprizov as your even strength line mate and getting kicked off power play 1 is better or worse, but either way, Rossi has obviously been producing without Kaprizov in the lineup, and so he's going to go back, and we expect more of the same. I feel pretty good about that. I feel pretty good about all of those guys at the top there. I would feel good about Pavel Dorofeyev if I felt more confident that his deployment was going to stick for the entire rest of the year. I'm feeling more and more confident day by day, but still
It's
not
hurdle
quite there
too.
yet.
Like, just the fact he
Yeah,
has access to hurdle, like, guy's going nuts.
yeah. Pavel Buchnevich, I'm still holding the candle for. Matvey Michkov down here, JJ Paterka, Matthew Nye, Stefan Nason, Connor McMichael making his way back onto this list with some recent gems of performances. Blake Coleman, a new addition to the list. I just have to show some respect for Blake Coleman, what he's been doing night in, night out there in Calgary. And then PLD finds his way in here at 17th on the list. Anything from the long-term plays here at forward that you want to shout out, Blake?
It's funny. It's not really a shutout, but I finally dropped Stefan Nason in Kakufel. This is a guy who traded straight up for Jared McCann. Not a good trade, folks, but then I had to drop Stefan Nason. So yeah, it is what it is. But what's your thought? I know you have Voronkov there at 5. Like, he's still getting power play 1, line 1. Do you feel like he's going to be that guy moving forward?
I do, yeah. I don't think there's much reason to think it'll change. He's actually been reasonably consistent throughout all of this. He doesn't have like the insane minutes the last little bit that he had for a little bit there.
Yep.
But yeah, he's been quite reasonably consistent. The underlying metrics have tailed off just a little bit here in the last 5 games, and so I am watching it a little bit more now. But I still think Marchenko and Fantilli are going, obviously, and he is definitely the third wheel. But I don't see how it gets better without him on that top line, top power play. So I feel pretty confident that he's going to be there for the long term. Sub 20% rostered. Mason McTavish has to top this list at the moment. Bertuzzi, Hayton, Eklund, Casper, Kent Johnson on this list. Michael Bunting, Victor Arvidsson, Jane Schwartz. And then we go sub 10% rostered. Matt Coronado, Shane Pinto, Joel Farabee thrown on the list with the trade here. Victor Olofsson and Yuri Kulich has to be on here as well with the 2-goal performance here tonight. Not too bad, not too bad. Really like Kulich as well. Maybe we're getting some foreshadowing for
might be
a
talking about him
potential
soon.
player to be talking about in the near future. But really like Yuri Kulich. Tough week to hold Yuri Kulich through for sure. Maybe if you're like in a buy spot and feeling really good and you've picked up Kulich and you're looking at that juicy Buffalo playoff schedule, maybe you're in a spot where you can. But yeah, definitely think Kulich is one of those guys that you might be interested in hanging on to. He might just be one of those guys that breaks out in the second half and goes nuts the rest of the way. Wouldn't be the most shocking thing. Anything from these lesser rostered players, Blake?
Nope, I'm loving this. Yeah, it's so crazy to me that all these guys are rostered to this level. Like, I think Barrett Hayton's a really nice add with Logan Cooley out as well.
Good point there. Let's move to the defensemen. Jackson Lacombe, Darren Radish, clear top two in my mind here. Cam Fowler, Philip Roenick, Bowen Byram, Brady Shea, Luke Hughes. Sub 20% rostered, we go Jared Spurgeon. Just 11% rostered, power play one in Minnesota. That feels like a number that should be higher. Matt Grzelcyk, still power play one in Pittsburgh as well. Justin Falk, Tony DeAngelo. Yeah, getting those minutes, getting power play one, so had to at least put him on the list. What do you think about the defenseman, Blake?
Yeah, Spurgeon. I like what you said about him. Like he's already better than Brock Faber for fantasy. And he's Jared Spurgeon. He's Spurgeon all over the place. Oh my God, buddy, not the tea towel.
All right, with that in mind, let's move on to the goaltenders. Elvis Merzlikins and Cam Talbot look like a 1-2 punch to me at the top here. Jake Allen will get some run, obviously, with Markstrom out for a while. Vejmelka and Ingram, whichever side of the tandem you like on any given day here. Yeah, you can go either way with that one for sure. And then Lucas Dostal rounding it out here. Merzlikins or Talbot rest of season, Blake?
Merzlikins. I'm
Love it.
rocking with Merz.
He's been steadily improving for the last 10 starts or so, and it's a good trend at the very least. You know me, I'm never going to trust a goaltender, but I like to see good trends.
You know what's interesting, Nate, before you go on,
Yep.
sir, I was just going to say about the Columbus, like they were really in on Elias Pettersson. And I don't think that's going to happen now, but they have the most cap room in the league and they're playing really well. I could see Columbus making a splash here at the trade deadline and picking up a really good roster player. Plus Sean Monahan is going to get back at some point. Like this could be a playoff team that we're looking at, and Merzlikins could be the guy for that team. So that's sort of my thought there.
Yep. Don't hate that. Lower roster goaltenders, Alex Nedeljkovic has had a couple of really nice starts this week. Samuel Urson, Peter Mrazek, John Gibson, and Arvid Soderblom. Worth noting what's going on in Chicago there, honestly. I don't think anybody's paying too much attention to the Chicago Blackhawks goaltender situation. But Soderblom got back-to-back starts here. Not back-to-back nights, but 2 starts in a row. And played pretty well. 1 goal against, 34 save win against Tampa Bay. 3 goals against, 24 save loss to Carolina. It looks like Mrazek is going to get the start against Florida, but it wouldn't shock me if he got lit up again, and Soderblom could actually get some run. He's been miles better than Mrazek on the season so far this year. It's just been Mrazek's continued to get volume, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that to continue if Soderblom continues to play him. All right, let's move on and take as little time as possible with the head-to-head streamer.
Always rushing me through the head-to-head streamer deathmatch.
Every single time, and I will continue to do so. Blake took Matty Beniers. Beniers has 9.75 Cacufel points, 1 game left on the week. I took Igor Sharangovich, which looks like probably the worst mistake of all time anyone has ever made with fantasy hockey ever. 0.75 Cacufel points in 2 games.
Thanks for coming out, Igor.
That's just atrocious. He does have 2 more games to go this week, so yeah, maybe Joel Farabee is gonna come to town. I can envision it now. Joel Farabee comes to town, and he just starts feeding Igor Sharangovich. They have instant chemistry, and Sharangovich is just clapping bar down 1-Ts from the face-off dot. That's exactly what's going to happen in both these games. So
yeah, I love that for you, Nate. I love that for you. Okay.
That was very patronizing, but
I'm sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
If you've made it this far and you haven't turned us off, join the Discord community. Click the link in the description. Come talk fantasy hockey with us and a whole bunch of other fantasy hockey managers. Join the conversation. While you're here, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment. That helps us out a lot, but that's going to be all that we've got for this episode. So hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band They're There for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.